What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Essential Scares. I am your host, Corbin. With me today is Alan.
Hello, good evening.
Bobby.
Up, cucks.
And for the first time ever, Mallory.
Hello.
We have got a great show for you guys today. We are going to be talking about American Psycho, the infamous GIF generator starring Christian Bale. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning for us. Bobby, bring us in.
I would love to. This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for the hit film American Psycho 2. Starring what's-her-face from that 70s show.
Mila Kunis, right?
That's the one. If you don't want American Psycho spoiled for you, please skip to the timecode ahead for our non-spoiler essential discussion. American Psycho. Finally, a movie with no political subtext. Corbin?
So, jumping right into that exact angle,
I thought you might.
I've seen this movie a fair amount of times, and I've recently read the book. This was my first time rewatching it since I've read the book. And while watching it with my wife, we were about halfway through, and it was one of the scenes of Patrick in his office, and she was like, "What exactly does he do?" And I'm like, that's the point. What does he exactly do? What do I do? What do any of us do?
There's a scene early in this movie where he just goes on and on about the political and socioeconomic trials of the day, and he just says nothing. He says absolutely nothing the entire time, and it's so good. They're all like, "Wow, you're so smart," and it's so deep. He's like, "We need to return to traditional moral value while simultaneously pushing the boundaries of equity." And it was like he just says nothing.
All laugh.
Yeah,
It's that whole he blends into whoever he's around thing that's just very prevalent through the whole film. And then you get those glimpses of the real him. Like the one that kind of stuck out to me from the very get-go is like, that dress looks terrible. I like high heels. Just kind of like very off-putting, very sexist
don't wear
remarks.
that again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's a pretty bold statement to make. It's those little glimpses when he's at his office, just in general, that you get to see him be him. It's really good. I like those little peaks.
Well, no one ever hears him either. Like, they'll always say, "What did you say?" And but that was one time where he actually repeated what he said, because usually he changes it to something normal.
Right.
He's like, "No, I don't like that. Please change."
Yeah. And he's like that with the men too. You don't get too many glimpses into it, but he has this very awkward, fashion-forward personality at times, to obviously the social detriments of everybody involved.
Oh man. Well, and again, it all kind of culminates really early on too, with that line of just, "I want to fit in." Just like, oh my god, dude. And I mean, off the top, right? Like, all of this is clearly not only a critique of the vapid nature of the 1980s, but this film is very clearly anti corporate elite and very anti capitalist superstructure and fail son type things, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you get pieces of that with they talk about nepotism a couple of times, and
your father essentially owns the company. Yeah.
They even, going all the way forward, depending on how you interpret the ending and the events of the movie, the entire film hinges on the corporate elite protecting themselves. That's the whole message of it.
But
Alan?
So, do we want to jump into the meta aspect of this movie from at this point? Okay, so
because it affects your discussion of literally every scene.
So many times in this show and in previous works, I have had issues where things pull me out of the narrative. That's a common criticism I've levied at movies.
because you have an
and
issue.
there are moments that this movie best it plays with that, ripping you from out of the narrative of like that can't possibly work that way, and then tie that into Bateman himself. And the one that kind of clearly, there's two moments basically near the very end that really kind of show this through, where he's in his own office building, shoots two people, runs around a corner, and the bellman's like, "Hey, Mr. Smith," and didn't hear anything. And and of course the movie kind of it leads you along to understand that what you see is not necessarily what's happening. I mean, Patrick Bateman, the camera perspective, is not always true to you.
He's an unreliable narrator.
Exactly. He's 100% an unreliable narrator the whole way through. And they play that card really close to their chest for a good chunk of the movie. Because you don't necessarily have any reason to not believe what you're seeing for, probably a third or so through? Something like that. Like they kind of draw that out a bit. And this is my first viewing of this movie. I guess for some other background context, I'd never seen this. The only thing I'd ever seen is, of course, the GIFs, the still images, all of that stuff. Of course, I've seen those. But
you're the only one, right? That this is your first time. Everybody else has seen it before.
Yeah.
So
it played. I think because of that, it played to me as like a viewer specifically better for that, because it actually took something where I'm going, well, this wouldn't make sense, and then it was like, no, fuck you, Alan, it does make sense, because you don't know if it's actually happening or not.
It's because it doesn't. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. It plays with that, I think, in the best way I've seen so far.
For sure, right? Because like again, the big thing you're talking about, right, is when at the very end of the movie, Patrick Bateman's delusions go beyond the pale, right? He tries to feed an ATM a cat.
Kills people in the street.
Blows up
cars.
a cop car with like a small handgun.
Yeah.
Where did he get the handgun? I know that was a question Mallory was asking me before the cast.
For sure. I think that's a core element of are those events really happening? Because he never has a gun the whole rest of the movie, and then like all of a sudden he's like blowing people away.
Well, also in the context of New York City in the 80s, buying a hand cannon, Jesus, I'm still in the realm like Destiny or some shit. Buying a handgun wasn't exactly easy, or at least not nearly as easy as it is in the modern day. Like
it would be for him.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He's an elite white person, so yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily think of that, but you're probably right.
Yeah, I think we can scratch that element.
Yeah.
He never uses anything, so like he wants to be gory. Like
exactly.
He likes the mutilation. So it's like that was my final question, was like, when did we slip into like total fakeness? Like none of this is actually happening, but like where does the line draw? Because then they loop back to it, and like the apartment's empty, like he did do it and someone came in and cleaned it up, and like it seems like his lawyer's kind of covering up for him, and you're like, so when did it really like fall apart? What is true?
Sure. What is true? Yeah, I mean you can definitely assume that some of those murders could have happened, but I think that there's probably a strong argument to be made that he didn't kill anybody. And
I am leaning more towards that angle.
It's much fuzzier in the book, because he's there every time he kills somebody. Like you even mentioned it, right? Like he wants the violence. The book is so overly descriptive with every person that he kills. Like it makes it seem almost like a daydream. And so there's like this whole other layer to like, okay, how often is he just thinking about killing people rather than cutting somebody up, you know?
Yeah, because he has the mind of, if you want to look at it in true crime lore, he has the mind of a process killer, right?
Right.
He wants to keep pushing the envelope. The process of the kill is what is getting him off. But then it goes to the last scene with the secretary, whose name escapes me, and she's she's flipping through his day book, and all it is just doodles, right?
Yeah.
I am of the mindset, having seen this movie a couple times, that I think the more prescient critique is that the corporate that the rich will always shield themselves, and that the fact that like he is looking for the fact that he is looking to be what is it, like, found guilty of his crime. He's looking for punishment, right? That's how that last scene kind of goes. He's looking for them to get him, to give him what he deserves, which is like
he's trying to like escape his own
sense of reality.
I'm
forgetting what the word is. Privilege.
I mean,
he's trying to escape his own privilege, basically.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's almost another way of like another bit of this, right? If we want to get like super fucking like film criticky about it, is it talks about like imposter syndrome of like he is not who he says he is, right? I am simply not there is the line.
Yeah.
And him like trying to in like him using this extreme violence for him to try to like find some sort of like true self and trying to find like my way out of having to fake who I am is for them to find out that I'm this monster.
Definitely.
So that way I can truly be a monster.
And he also, like, pretty much everybody that he kills is either, like, a prostitute of some kind, a homeless person, like, taking the final sequence out of it. And then, especially if you remove Paul Allen, I mean, that's basically everybody else that he kills. And there's almost this element of, like, him considering being that other person, like, almost like a self-victimization of, like, where he might think he belongs, actually.
Sure.
Yeah. Alan had something he was going to say.
Along with what Bobby was saying there, I wrote down, there is no real me, only illusory, which is evocative.
Face mask, too. Like,
exactly. That whole sequence of him just going through his day, explaining everything he does, is just terrifying. It's the horror in this movie is entirely unique.
Talks about all the crunches you can do. Yeah, I can do. I'm up to 1,000 now. It's like, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing? But no, the scary parts, to your point, Alan, are almost like the weird mundane things he is like freaked out about or obsessed about in the because the violence is almost never shown. There is very little actual like physical violence shown in this movie. It's like 99.9% all implied, which is like, you know, I think it kind of that juxtaposition, you really get into the mindset of like, this does not bother him. Like he just wants, he does it because he knows it's an urge for him that he is unwilling to like fight against.
His nightly bloodlust.
Yeah. But Mallory, I know I don't want to like steal some of your wonderful notes, but like you had mentioned something to me about specifically the victims that we know that we see in this movie, minus the one homeless man. I don't know if you wanted to like the connections between them.
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're saying.
You might okay. So me. This is producer Mallory. We are engaged to be wed. Yes. We are deeply in love, and we watched this movie together. And we discussed this movie ever since, right? She mentioned, and I was hoping she was going to bring it up but it's fine.
You can prompt me. I just don't.
I was trying. Here we go though. That like all of the women that he kills are blonde.
Yeah,
very blonde, like his fiance, and Paul Allen looks like him.
Yeah.
Like, and so there is this like destruction of the self, and this, and like, if we again want to go back to this process killing the thing that's keeping him tied to reality, his fiance, right? Because that's like the thing that like she's the one that's like, let's get married, let's do this, like let's continue down this path towards something that I don't think Patrick Bateman wants. He just wants to be this lawless, like, privileged, disgusting thing that kills everything, or to be away from it all because he doesn't exist. Like, and I think,
he's not real. Like, no one knows who he is outside of his like inner circle. Like, the only people that call him Patrick are his fiance and like one of his friends, maybe. And like everyone else thinks he's someone else, even the lawyer guy at the end. I don't think he's real.
The
It's
cop
just a
knows.
show.
The cop knows who he is. Willem Dafoe.
But he leaves. Like, he's not even important. Was he real? Like, he just disappears.
Oh, use
I
Blue
didn't
Allen's
even
mind.
think about that. He could potentially just
Be
be a
another.
figment of.
Because he's, like, so nervous. That's not how he is around everyone else. Everyone's like, oh, you're so sweet. Like, his fiance always calls him the boy next door. And then, like, when he's with the detective, he's always, like, super sweaty and nervous. And, like, he does a fake phone call to, like, pretend to be cool. And then all of a sudden he's just gone. Oh, you were with your friends. And, like, that was it. He just disappeared. So I don't think he was real.
You don't think Willem Dafoe is real?
No. It's all a lie.
Jean sees him.
Well, does she see him, or is Patrick an unreliable narrator, and we think that there's a conversation that happens there? There's enough precedent for that to be a thing.
I think the whole reason why he's so afraid of Willem Dafoe is because Willem Dafoe is the only person who sees through his bullshit. Like,
I definitely think that I've never considered that Willem Dafoe didn't exist. I mean, I think there is a strong argument there, I guess, but
yeah.
I think that the reason why people don't remember him or why he's kind of like blending in is I thought that is kind of a commentary on the vapidness, the sameness of like those people at that level. Like everybody is trying to get to the top, and by being part of that you have to be a certain person, and so everybody is so samey that people can't even remember who other people are. Like I think that there's some of that, and there's even an element of Patrick maybe expanding that in his own mind. Like it might not be happening nearly as often as we think it's happening, or even never. I think that there's a strong argument that Paul Allen and Patrick Bateman are the same person, because that just kind of makes sense, I think, at times, especially with the apartment scene at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, because with that apartment scene, that the woman seems to oddly know Patrick to some degree, or there. It seems like there's a connection there that we're just not privy to.
I think that we are supposed to be inferring that she's kind of part of the same setup as his lawyer, where if you're buying into the cover-up story, that she's part of that, right? So like she knows him, she knows what happened in there, she knows what was really going on, and she's being paid to not talk about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Quite well, because there's like in the chainsaw scene, there's 10 bodies in that apartment alone.
Right, exactly.
I mean, the room has just got a bunch of bodies in it at that point.
And the thought process is like, is that where the delusion starts, right? Because a couple fucking things happen in that scene, right? Like, one, that house is full of bodies. How did neither of the prostitutes smell that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He runs out in the middle of an apartment building with a chainsaw, and this woman is screaming, and nothing happens. Right?
She pounds on a door a bunch. Yeah.
He drops a chainsaw down a flight of stairs and gets her. Which again, that scene is that bit of that scene is it has to be played for laughs, because the way she's just running down that flight of stairs, and they keep going back to her, and it just takes a little bit too long. It's just oh man, like she ain't gonna make it. And the fact that he's also running around completely naked except for a pair of white gym shoes, like he is.
That's what you should have said first. That's the most important part of the scene, okay?
And that whole sequence is part of his fantasy about being a serial killer, right? Which leads back to like his fascination with other serial killers, specifically Ed Gein, who he talks about like twice, and he's watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre at one point.
And Ted Bundy too.
Right. Yeah. And so that scene feels like a fulfillment fantasy. Like, did that really happen? Probably not. Like he's clearly watching a lot of movies, a lot of other extracurricular activities going on, and he's kind of putting it all together the way that he would do it if he was that person.
He had to return some videotapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that was like his just a common line that you knew some bad shit was gonna happen. I have to go return some videotapes. Oh no, Patrick, what's about to happen?
Well, and again, it speaks to that like 1980s and like he always has to do that, which is like another thing of like he's rich enough to be renting movies all the time, but like also he's not so rich that he isn't buying videotapes all the time. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I thought that was more. That's a comment on like wasteful consumerism, right? Like he never buys videotapes; he always rents videotapes. Like I think obviously, yeah. Did he rent that? Did he buy that? Who knows?
I kind of just assumed that was the videotapes he was mostly referring to.
What, the porn?
Mostly, yeah. I just because of how casual he just had porn up while he's talking to what's her name?
Courtney?
Yes, that's correct. Just like casually in the background, just there's porn, whatever. That's again how he talked about the kind of like casual moments of horror, and the same thing with that Texas Chainsaw. That scene to me was, in a way, one of the more disturbing ones of him just like crunching like a motherfucker while the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on. That just combination of events, I was deeply unsettled. There's one scene I think that's more unsettling than that, but that Texas Chainsaw crunches scene just. It made me feel like something bad was about to happen. It gave me all the tension without the release. It blue balled me. That's what that scene did in the worst possible way.
What's the other scene?
I hated it. Oh, it's him talking to the two prostitutes. That whole sequence is so unsettling with how aggressive he's just talking very naturally. But now I need you to do this. Like his demeanor shift.
Don't just look at it, eat it.
Yeah,
exactly. But like. That whole sequence is, I think, probably the peak of the horror of the film, because you think they're both going to die. I mean, we do. This is what we think is going to happen the whole way, and then it doesn't. Again, it kind of just it gets you tension without the release.
Worse. It's almost worse, because like all of a sudden, like he gets up and it's just like we're not done, and like oh fuck, that's bad.
Also, why did he let them go? They're the only ones that he like let go.
I thought that he was like picking up hookers a lot more frequently. So like,
is that just like the okay?
Yeah, that was my take on it. Was that like that was just a very regular occurrence for him actually.
Yeah, I think specifically you seeing him like flexing in the mirror while he's fucking, like that to me is just
so funny.
It's funny, but it's that's Patrick Bateman. Like those glimpses of that is him, the narcissist wanting to see himself kind of a thing. And like you even see the one girl who's just like, look, what did he have her call her? Christy. Christy just kind of looks at him like, that's fucking weird, but just kind of keeps rolling with the punches. It's that those sequences of seeing him as him are just few and far between, but very telling when you do see them.
Oh yeah, again, like the fact of the matter is, like, we mentioned Ted Bundy. Like, if you read about Ted Bundy at all, if you read about Ted Bundy at all, this dude is very much in that Ted Bundy strain of fucking sociopaths.
No, for sure. I mean, I think he chose the serial killers that he's discussing very specifically, very specifically.
Well, yeah. Again, like there is like. I'm gonna do a little bit of true crime here. There's two main types of serial killer: process and product, right? And he kind of edges the gap, right? Like he's keeping pieces of the one girl's hair.
But he doesn't start taking trophies until later.
Possibly, right? But like
I thought that was supposed to be like part of his descent into
like his escalation.
Yeah, like before he was killing people, he was really specific about how he did it and where the bodies went. And then, like, as the movie progresses, he's getting a little more careless. He's starting to try to get caught. He's keeping trophies. Like, I think that all escalates into him wanting to be caught.
And in the same way, right? Wouldn't like the buying of the prostitutes and like torturing them but letting them go also be a lower level of that escalation.
Mm-hmm. Right,
like,
because it wasn't just like a kill, like there were like stages to that.
Because his first kill that we know about is the one where he kills the homeless man and the dog, and that just seems to be a murder of opportunity, but also like a murder of like disgust of like because like how can I look at me versus look at you? You're nothing. I'm like whatever else it might be. Alan, you want to say
I don't
something?
think that's the first kill that we at least can assume that he did, because he walks side by side with that woman, and then the next scene we see he's trying to get his sheets washed that have a big old blood stain on them.
That's cran apple juice, dude.
Yeah, was that before?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little bit before. Like, I think there's like one other scene, then there's the homeless guy scene, but they're pretty close to each other there.
Yeah.
I hated that homeless guy scene. I knew it was going to happen.
It is
the moment I saw
violent in the book. So much more. I was surprised at how toned down it is in the movie in comparison. Yeah.
So, since you've read the book, has anybody else read the book besides Corbin?
Bobby, yeah.
Okay, have you guys read it by chance?
Yes.
Okay, so then Bobby, question for you.
Yeah.
I have not finished it, but what I do know of the novel is that in the later portion of it, you get chapters from its perspective.
Yes.
So, and then again, from what I understand, those are some of the most just like creepy, because it's a primordial being describing its thoughts.
It's two very different characters.
Okay.
Because Patrick Bateman, despite being somebody who lacks all forms of empathy and consideration for other human beings, he's still a human, right? I would actually argue, and Corbin, you can either agree or disagree with me, Christian Bale's monologues in this, like his inner monologues in this movie, are very, very well done and does justice to the book.
I agree.
He's very much this like, and when you talk about when you talk about the spider, or the deadlights, or whatever you want to call it, it is very much like I have tasted the suns of 1,000 years. I have drunk the souls of 1,000,000. Like, it's very like
a different kind of horror.
It's very eldritch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious because that was the only other kind of one that I had as an immediate reference of like the bad guy's exact perspective in an interesting kind of thought monologue way.
Yeah. Well, you get pretty close in the movie. For
That's
sure.
Good.
Bobby, what were you gonna say?
It makes me want to read the book.
It's interesting, right? Because like Patrick Bateman is both our protagonist as well as our antagonist. Interesting. You're not rooting for it. It's one of those. I love movies like this where like you are not rooting for Patrick Bateman, and you are not rooting for anybody else in this movie. You are just stuck. And it's interesting because you're just hoping for the protagonist to fail the entirety of this movie, because he is the center of this movie, right? And so you're watching his journey, and you're not hoping for anybody else to succeed. You're only hoping for Patrick Bateman to fail. And I find that to be really interesting because, like, scenes like, for instance, one of the most iconic scenes in this movie, right? The card scene, right? Mm-hmm. I think part of the humor of it is watching him lose to Paul Allen and just completely freak out. And, like, him, like, failing to, like, who was it?
Lewis.
Lewis later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other guy is like, I can't believe
Van Patten or
Van Patten. Yeah, Bryce like Van Patten more than mine, right? Like him like just getting sweaty and just uncomfortable, and like him being so excited, right? He's like, that's something called bone. In the text is something called cerulean rail, right? Right? It's just like this, and all of them have the same typo on it. They all have mergers and acquisitions spelled incorrectly on it, and they're all just these fucking dumb fail son idiots. But like watching Patrick fail, you get a laugh out of it. It's like, that's what you get, you smug prick. That's what you get for killing that old man and his dog. And then all of a sudden,
I didn't feel that.
No.
I
was
okay.
like, I'm gonna kill Paul Allen. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I think that yeah, exactly.
Really?
Like what that
Early
scene does
enough to still be behind him.
for sure. It reinforces him as being like, okay, yeah, he's the villain, but he's still my protagonist, and like, so you're still kind of as much as on the side of a sociopath as you possibly could be. I think at that part.
Okay, so maybe I had a different perspective. I don't know if it was intentional, but I was. Everybody in this movie sucks. But fucking Patrick Bateman sucks the most. Because like Paul Allen is not like a good character. He's just kind of like this. He's a pretentious dude, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and like, even like but even like the things that could be construed as nice, right? He's like when they go to the one restaurant when he's like getting set up to kill Paul Allen, and Paul Allen has a couple of drinks, and he's like, listen, we can go to Dorsia. I can get us a table, right? Like implying like I know a guy that can get us in, right? And that can be seen as like, yes, I know you're trying your best to impress me, but like I like you, Halberstrand. Let's go to this place that we know is the good place, right? And even that can be like is automatically misconstrued by Patrick Bateman's looks of like, you just think you're better than me. And so like there's so much of this of just like, I think you get, and this is just me kind of spitballing based off your reactions to the card scene that I just said, is like you can almost get like led into Patrick Bateman's web for a second until you're like, wait a second, what's happening here, mm-hmm. right? Why is he the guy I'm rooting for? He's killing people, right? And I find that I even just based off what you guys said, I find that to be really interesting, because this movie's just so goddamn good.
That scene of him killing Paul Allen, the one kind of note that sticks out to me that I've got written down here is it's earlier than I expected it to be. So again, This was my first time I saw ever watching this movie, and the only thing I've seen of this movie is, of course, this scene. I mean, it's iconic in horror. I think that's a pretty easy call to make.
Square.
Oh, it's so good. His movements are so direct and cold throughout the whole sequence. It just him being excited. It's beautifully done. But
the way he holds up CDs like he's advertising them.
Yeah, exactly. That whole bit. Like, is that a raincoat? It is, and he's so excited about it. Just that line that might be the best delivered line in the entire movie. Just it's so. This movie has odd points of humor, and that is definitely one of them.
Well,
the other one,
yeah,
this movie's a black comedy
for sure. Yeah. It's comedic the whole way through, and in some way or another. And even when it
or maybe we're just fucked up. Who knows?
No, it's definitely intentionally funny because even in between each, like once his crimes get violent to the point of no longer being funny, like the Paul Allen kill is amusing for sure, right? It's intersliced with like scenes that are still funny, you know, like whenever he talks to the detective, like there are interchanges that are amusing every time he goes and like talks to other women and he just jokes about killing people or whatever, and they're like, what did he say? Like that is played funny. I think it's played comedically, so I think it's okay to think it's funny.
This movie did genuinely make me laugh out loud, actually start busting up laughing when they're in the club and they're doing drugs, and some guy comes over the top and says, "Can you keep it down? I'm trying to do drugs."
Yeah.
That is...
They're all trying to do drugs. Everybody is.
I paused the movie, walked away, and laughed. I loved it. That sequence was just too fucking funny to me. It was perfect.
Did you hear when in the card scene when he's dropping it for the first time, Patrick Bateman and Bryce, I think, says, "Is that a gram?" Yeah. Like just very subtly, and I was like, "You're at work. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Or like my other question about drugs is, what drug did Patrick Bateman take in the Paul Allen scene?
Yeah, I meant to like go back and pause it.
It doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say. Okay.
I just kind of assume it's an antipsychotic. That's kind of like what I thought in my head of some kind.
I thought he was
or maybe
trying to
like
get high on something.
Bobby said that. I said antipsychotic.
Yeah, like he's taking an upper, something like that. Because I mean, right, even earlier after the movie, right, he's talking with his mistress Courtney, and he's like, take a lithium or a Diet Coke, something to perk you up.
Yeah.
Like it's the rampant drug use, right? Even when they're in that drug scene, right? The scene when they're in the bathroom, right? They're complaining that there's too much baking soda in the cocaine, and Patrick Bateman's response is, yeah, I know, but if we do enough of it, I think we'll be okay.
Yep.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, we're just gonna do a shit ton of coke and like.
No ramifications.
Yeah,
we're fine.
Yeah. And there's just a line in the bathroom to just everybody to go into the bathroom only to do cocaine. Like, it's this movie is just so fucking good, man. Like I watch this movie and I'm enthralled every single time because it's just like, again, I'm a big fan of like the black comedies, right? Like in practice episodes for this show, we talked a lot about one of my favorite movies of all time, The Evil Dead 2, right? Which is like, I feel like one of the most perfect balances of horror and comedy, right? This movie is another really, really fantastic example of it because it is deeply unsettling, but a lot of that deeply unsettlingness gets matched with like the ridiculousness of just how like vapid and unaware and stupid these people who are in major positions of power are, right? Like no consequences, and that's like super scary. But then you listen to what they say and you're like, all these fucking people are idiots, like just giant stupid idiots.
Well, they're very successful though.
Good. Yes. No, they're not.
They're all very rich.
It's true.
It's
They all
CEO, okay.
Money go up.
Money go up. Yeah, they're.
So what's the issue here? Money go up means successful.
You're right.
You're right. So for those of you that haven't read the book, so one of my big downsides to watching it this time is that Evelyn is like barely in the movie, and in the book she's much more of a central character. Like her place in Patrick's life is referenced a lot, and like her being sort of like in and out, being his fiance but not really, and them being together but not really, like it's much more an actual story and not just like a facet of his personality, basically. What did you guys think about Evelyn? Like, did you care about her like at all?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
You already read the book.
It's for Mallory and Alan.
Yeah. Oh wait,
Mallory, take it.
Alan's got you got your finger. You go.
Okay, so what I find interesting about that, because I again not read the book, I do want to read the book after watching this movie though. The whole scene with Jean, where Mallory Evelyn calls. And
okay, your turn. It's over. Mallory, what? No, I'm good.
So Evelyn calls, and that effectively stops Patrick from more than likely killing Jean. And
he stopped himself from killing Jean first.
I mean, maybe, but
no.
With the nail gun.
Yes, but didn't the call come through while he was standing there with the nail gun, and that was the only thing that stopped him?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think so. That's how I read it. It was like the call like killed any sort of vibe of him murdering.
It felt weird to me that Evelyn's call interrupted it. Like I kind of keyed in on it being Evelyn. Like that to me just seemed intentional in terms of who's calling him. Oh, it's Evelyn. I know you're home, and that kind of killed his vibe. And that's kind of the one moment of disconnect I really had with this movie. That I don't think this movie did well in terms of solving, where I was like, why would this matter to him? And I guess if the context of the book is, well, this is a much more important character to him than what we see within the movie, that makes more sense, but I don't know that the movie earns that.
I think for that scene, even in the movie, it could be argued that his murderous vibe would have ended no matter who was calling. Like, everything is sort of set up very specifically, and for him, like, the mood is totally set, and then the phone call, like, breaks him out of it, probably. I don't know that it matters who was on the other side.
I think it does matter that it's Evelyn. Mallory, please. You started saying it this first, and you might be saying the same thing that I'm going to say.
I was going to say the same thing as you. We are like engaged or whatever. We have similar thoughts sometimes.
Why do you think it is important that it's Evelyn?
No, because they're like, even though they just say that they're fiancés, like that still to me like has, because we're fiancés, like it has like you have some history together. So like, and like Bobby said earlier, like he kills a lot of blonde women who are like kind of like him killing Evelyn. So I think he was gonna kill this girl, but like he likes Jean, so he was already kind of iffy about it. But then Evelyn called and he's like, oh man, like now she really doesn't like me, and now I can't kill her because she doesn't like me. Like, so I think if anyone,
that's fair. I didn't think about the you don't like me anymore angle, because he does kill people that are kind of at least mutual. That's yeah.
I mean, even the homeless guy, right? Like, he waits for the homeless guy to, like, compliment him. You're a kind man, sir. I can tell you're a kind man, right?
Early age things.
Yeah, very poor. Yeah. So, no, I that was kind of more my thought of, like, there is a certain level of, like, I need you to, like, love me or want me, and then I will, like, take everything away from you, right? And the fact that Evelyn calls, and that kind of like complicates any sort of relationship, like you were saying. Like, I think no, I mean, I'm not gonna rephrase. I'm not gonna mansplain what you said. You said it better than I. I'm gonna stop myself before I get ahead of it. But no, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So I think it is. I don't think that it's a stretch for that to be the reason why.
I think even on that same token, that's almost an argument for a lot of the things that he does not really happening, because he doesn't kill Evelyn. He doesn't, like she's alive at the end. And I think that, if you were to take his prior actions at face value, like, there's probably some assumption there that he would have rather killed her than broken up with her. Like, he doesn't even like her anymore, right? But she's still infatuated with her. Like, that would have been like the perfect capstone, I think.
Well, he also doesn't kill what's-her-face either, does he? The girl he's like cheating Lewis's fiance?
No, she's
he doesn't kill Courtney.
Yeah.
No.
He also doesn't kill Lewis, who he totally hates.
I thought Courtney's head was in the freezer.
It wasn't.
Was
I
it?
told you.
I don't think so.
No, it was the girl from the club that he picked up right before that.
I checked online. It's a matter of debate. It can be interpreted either way.
All I'm saying.
I didn't think it was Courtney. I don't think he kills Courtney. So I'm on Mallory's side on this one.
But
what? What else you gotta say?
No, I'm challenging Corbin's original point. Okay, so chill.
Okay.
My original is, you'd think that he'd kill Evelyn if you knew nothing about serial killer. But I, the real Patrick Bateman, know a ton. The reality is oftentimes serial killers do not kill the object of their obsession, whether it be like Ed Kemper's mom, or Ted Bundy's ex-girlfriend, or other people. Or even what's his name? The cannibal guy.
Ed Gein.
Not Ed Gein. The other one.
He was executed in Indiana.
Yeah, the one who made Zombie.
He was the clown one.
No,
right?
that's John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, fucked it up.
John Wayne Gacy.
It's gone.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy killed because he was a pedophile. He was he was a rapist who wanted to like get away with it. But my point is, right? They don't typically kill the object of their affection until the last kill.
I said capstone.
Yeah, but we never get to his capstone.
But he was definitely working there. Like, I think that he felt like he might have been there.
but that doesn't mean he's gotten there yet, right? Like, because the idea
What are you
is
arguing? I don't
like
understand.
That he wouldn't kill Evelyn. That's his argument.
there's still room to kill Evelyn, or he hasn't killed
That's what
Evelyn
he's
yet.
saying.
I don't think so.
Or-
I think when he broke up with Evelyn, like that was the choice instead of killing Evelyn. Like I
Yeah,
think
but
that once he's broken up with her, like then killing her has no meaning anymore. So
It's one of those, again, rare glimpses of him being him.
right,
Fully
and I think
Patrick.
it puts
Or
in
maybe
into
not Patrick. I don't really know if that's necessarily clear that is who he is, but it's
Paul
neither here nor
Allen.
there.
More than anything, I'm arguing the fact that I know a ton about serial killers. So
Yeah, I just want to
That's
note
definitely
that
true.
before this, Bobby just said that I was going to go all true crime on this episode, and
Would you
Hey,
like
what
to
up?
know what that means.
Would you like to take a stab at some true crime?
No, because I didn't know what he was talking about, really. I was like, okay, dude.
You know what though?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah. How did none of us remember that?
I don't know.
I think he also
That's
was
terrible.
murdered in Indiana.
Yeah. This is why we don't host a true crime podcast.
Yeah,
Crime.
Yeah, get out of here. Nope. Essential crime is always forget it.
it writes itself, my guy.
Oh my god.
Look,
You know what?
There was a
Let-
street rat. He needed to get food. All right. Essential crime. He needed to be able to eat some bread.
That's every episode is like moral quandaries.
Yeah.
Tune in next week for me and Alan's review on the Conquest of Bread.
I am ready to rate this movie. I don't know how you guys feel, but I am ready.
Yeah.
You're
I can
ready?
rate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, let's start with you.
Oh man. You know what? I love this movie too much. I can't. Like this is a movie that's purely like biased for me. It's a 5 out of 5. It's just so fun and it's so thought provoking. Every time I watch it, I know something new and interesting. Ignoring the fact that the original book author seems to have done a total 180 on his politics stance, the movie seems to have maintained its punk rock sensibilities. It's just a good movie. It's funny. It's scary. It hits every note I want in a film. And Christian Bale is a fantastic actor, and I love Willem Dafoe. So, and 30 Seconds to Mars, pretty dope band. At least that first album when they were still kind of emo. 5 out of 5.
Mallory, let's go to you.
Oh, God. Okay. I don't know.
Um,
I'll probably...
Go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
thinking, like... You're fine. I was going to go lower, but I think I'm going to go, like, a 4... I don't know. 4.5. I'm stuck. Bobby's swaying me. I think it's, like, my dark sense of humor came from this movie. I just remember my dad watched it, and he's like, you can't watch this movie, so I just, like, snuck downstairs and watched it. When I was probably a little too young.
I was say, how old were you when you first watched this?
I don't know. Probably, like... I don't know.
I think I was probably like
Probably-
13, maybe. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably like 11 to 13 range of some
Yeah.
sort. And I was just like, I think I can only watch it because there's no like guts. I'm not a horror person. Like this is the only like thing because there's like no real like blood, so it's
Mhm.
cool and it's like really dark, and there's a lot of hot men. So yeah, I'm gonna go like 4.5. We haven't talked about it enough, but I'm the only woman here, so.
you should. I mean, it deserves to be brought up, right?
Yes.
Christian
There's a lot
Bale
of hate in
is like 100% hunk in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. It's great.
He's a 10 out of 10 beefcake. I can't even fight it.
Just gets
For
a
sure.
point for that. Just 1 point.
There.
So it's a 5.5 out of 5.
I meant in my base score. Like,
I see.
So we're starting from 1 instead of 0. It's
Yeah, exactly.
This could never be terrible. I mean, look at it.
Have you seen Christian
Exactly.
Bale's abs in this film?
Yeah.
anything.
Or his
anything.
ass, for that matter. Come on
There
now.
are close-up
Like,
shots of his thighs. Like, what more could you want?
Nothing.
Oh god. So I am also going to give it a 5. I thought about it pretty hard. This is the first 5 I've given, I think, on the show. It is just perfectly acted. It's tightly written. I think it's very, very well directed. We didn't really talk about that. The music choice is all excellent. It does a great job of either placing you exactly in that era, exactly in that scene, or getting the horror going, which I really appreciate. And there's also a couple of scenes where there's no music at all, and it really like raises the tension because there's so much music like throughout the movie. I really love this movie, and I also think it's a great adaptation of the book. Like I think that there's some things missing, like there always will be, because as a movie's an hour and 40 long, you can't get everything. But it really captures the essence of the characters and the book in a way that a lot of other adaptations don't. So for me, it's a major success. 5 out of 5.
Oh.
My note written down after the movie immediately finished is probably a masterpiece. 4.5 to 5 out of 5 is what I had written down.
Mm-hmm.
On my way home today from disc golf, I was just driving. I have about a half-hour drive home. And I just thought to myself, what did you not like about the movie? Is the question I raised. And I didn't have an answer. 5 out of 5. I loved my time with this movie. I laughed genuinely hard, was incredibly disturbed by what I saw. There wasn't, as I like to, as is known, I like gory things.
It is
in
known.
My horror. It has very little gore, but the horror side of it, the tension, it fills in that gap, and I think that can't be understated. It really does well. Like Corbin pointed out, the music side of things. We didn't necessarily talk about it probably enough, but that music, it's also those bits of him having kind of a more like normal perspective. When he's just listening to music, he's able to be himself. Well, not necessarily be himself,
it grounds him.
Exactly. And you have those brief moments of him kind of being more level that makes those moments of him exploding, basically, and doing the weird and crazy things that he does. It makes it that much more evocative. So it's a 5 out of 5. Probably a masterpiece.
Hell yeah.
Probably. So that's our highest rated movie I think that we've ever done, especially between all four of us here. That's 19.5 right out of 20.
I feel like I'm feeling a lot of pressure right now.
Well, if we add another point for Christian Bale alone, right, it's like 20 and a half.
That's 20 and a half out of 20.
Yeah. But I mean, despite all of that, is it essential? Alan?
I think this might be the easiest yes that we've had on the show. I think. This to me is so easy to recommend on two different fronts. Mallory's brought it up already. This movie is not super gory. This is a kind of perfect horror movie that if you have someone who traditionally just cannot handle the gore side of things, this is a pretty good option for you. On top of that, just in a general sense, this movie earns so much of what it does. It earns the scenes that it displays to you. And it needs to be seen. It's a little hard to necessarily not be too spoilery here, to be honest with you, in a way, because you want to explain more in depth. But this movie, it almost begs you to watch it.
Well, there's so many iconic scenes in this movie as well,
sure.
Right? Like,
and you've probably seen one or two of them. To be honest, you probably have seen at least one scene from this movie, if not two that kind of come to mind.
You've probably seen like 10 minutes of this movie just from GIFs alone, honestly, if you piece it all together.
You might not know what it means from the GIFs alone, but...
Sure.
Right.
But this to me is an incredibly easy yes. I mean, it's just absolutely, you should watch this movie, 100%.
Yeah. Mallory?
I'm gonna say yes too. I don't know. I felt like I wasn't worthy because I don't watch horror, so like I don't know what's essential to this genre.
I mean, I
think this is because I would watch it. So like Alan said, so I just enjoyed it. The cast.
Yeah, I think that angle, solid. Not being from horror, makes it an even stronger opinion for you to have, right? Because like a lot of this discussion is about, like, for people that maybe that aren't into horror, that are trying to get into horror. So I think for you, whatever you would feel about it might even be stronger than what the three of us would say about it, I think.
That's fair. Yeah, I just gotta go with that. I'm like, there's no gore. Like, I can watch it. I can't watch stuff when it's like really gross. Like, I just get sick to my stomach. So this is enough. And I also get like really nervous if it's too like tensiony. It just hits that perfect like gap between like scary but not too scary and also funny enough that it hits on my dark side of humor where I'm like, yes, I'm good. I can watch this. And then Hot Men, obviously, always.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
I know.
I'm cool. I'm
Sure,
cool.
sure.
I love that Bobby's like brushing that off as if he wouldn't watch a movie just for Hot Men. Like,
I mean, I didn't say I wouldn't. That's like, don't.
it's just
don't
the
put
vibe.
words
It's
in
just
it.
the vibe you're putting out,
Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's me. It's me liking Hot Men.
You can like hot. Everybody can like hot men. Hot bods. We're all down bods. I will say that my answer to this essential question is a bit more complicated. I have to ask the question, right? Is this movie an essential piece of American? Of course it is, right? Again, it's iconic. It's a masterpiece, right? Is it essential horror? It's tough because like it's not like The Exorcist, right? Where it's a horror movie first that has like elevated the genre. It's weird because like the answer has to be yes, but it feels weird saying it. You know what I mean? Like it does not feel exactly right to say that yes, this movie is essential, right? Because I've seen other horror movies that do this kind of like unreliable narrator, protagonist that you hate. That's the very dry wit, very dark, very unsettling, and all of those movies are fantastic. But like, they're never it's never taken quite a hold in the genre of horror films in the way that like something like The Exorcist has, or like slasher flicks have, right? And so it feels like it's in a class all of its own in that way, which makes it essential for that reason, but also makes it feel very much like it does not belong on an essential horror. So I'm saying yes, because anything that gets a 5, anything that's a masterpiece, belongs in on any essential list. Like like this movie could easily belong on a comedy list. But
sorry, can I interject 1 second?
Absolutely.
When I think of this, I feel like it sets like Dexter, like those kind of shows up really well. Like this started it. I immediately thought of Dexter after this, and like that was a really big show. So I feel like you're like, oh hey, you should watch this movie that like kind of started it. Like, or that's what I first think of is like when you that type of character, I immediately think of Patrick Bateman.
For sure. And obviously Patrick Bateman is like one of the most iconic characters, right? It's one.
So it has to be essential at that point.
Hey, I'm saying it is, but I'm saying it feels weird to call it that.
I'm saying you're wrong.
and I believe I laid out a perfect salient argument, right? No matter what,
stabbed a hole through.
That's the one.
Got it. Okay, cool.
No.
It was Paul Allen's head, and Mallory just was
My boat is floating strong in an ocean of haters.
Sorry, there's like a really tiny bug just flying around here.
How dare you?
I understand where Bobby is coming from, right? A lot of times when we say if something is essential, a lot of the time that means that it started or strongly influenced something. And American Psycho kind of came out at a time where it was like the most iconic and maybe the best out of its crop of movies, but there were other movies like it. Like, it wasn't the first movie like this. And you can look to this like period of time, like 98 to like 2003, let's say, where there were a lot of movies like this, like kind of violent black comedies, like. And I think that there's a strong argument to be made that a lot of that is because of Fight Club and not because of American Psycho, right? Or other movies that came out, earlier more in the 90s.
Tarantino.
But for sure, yeah. But I think that it's undeniably iconic, and that's the thing, right? And so I think it has to be on the essentials list because it's just too much part of the culture, right? I mean, what did it have a huge influence on other movies at the time? I don't know. I think that probably the book had as much influence on horror going forward that as the movie did, maybe more because it was like 10 years prior. But looking back on it now and comparing it to other things, like it was the best of its bunch, and it's such a strong part of internet culture and horror culture today that it has to be a yes. But I get where Bobby's coming from. I see it.
Don't soften the blow.
No. See, here's the thing, right? I don't miss. I'm always correct. And speaking of Star Trek, what have you guys been up to? Where can they find you?
Bobby, take it away.
Sure, I'll go first. You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. All my relevant socials are in my profile page. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I retweet leftos, and I post thirst traps and my dog and pictures with me and my beloved fiance next to me here.
I'm angry that I was the third one on that list.
Yeah, well, our cute couple pics are typically the third most posted. So I'm going in order of most relevant postings, most common postings, I should say. But yeah, I stream any horror game we play for the cast, or any horror game that I'm currently playing. As well as me, Alan, and Corbin, as well as some of our other friends, raid Destiny typically weekly. We took last week off, so and I stream that as well. Feel free to come hang out. It's a good time. Okay.
Look at that. Mallory, how about you?
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't have socials. I have
That's
fine. I run the Essential Scares Instagram. That's about the most social I am.
That's pretty
So
social.
Just pop in that Linktree.
There you go.
Follow that. And to my polls. Dang it. And yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I was supposed to say.
Don't sell
Perfect.
yourself short there. You also make most of the graphics minus the logo. We have to obviously credit, we did get an artist to make the logo.
Yes,
but
we
the
did.
other graphics for our weekly Hump Day Horror, which you should participate in,
For sure.
that's all Mallory. She takes that for us because we all suck and Mallory's great.
And not only is she beautiful and intelligent and
Ew.
funny and great, she's also artistically just graphically designed. Mwah.
Simpler.
10 out of 10.
I hate this. I hate
I'm gonna hella listen for my wife. That's right.
Do it, man. I sim for my wife all the time. You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. Trying to be more active on Twitter because I just am not normally. So I'm trying to be more out there and whatnot. I actually updated my profile picture because the last time I had one before I updated it was from Corbin's wedding, and I was like 120 pounds heavier back then, and it's best to stay on top of these things.
And Corbin yelled at you.
He did yell at me, rightfully so. I deserved it. It's a little background knowledge. Corbin has a very interesting way of telling you you're wrong, while not necessarily being nice or mean. It's a very strange middle ground.
They have a word. It's called passive aggressive. It's a phrase.
But it's not. It's not
word's
passive
actually
aggressive
very-
because it's like aggressive without
it.
being mean. I don't know. It's strange. The man's perfected it over years. But yeah, you can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. Corbin.
Yeah.
Let us
You can find me anywhere at Corbangering. I am most active on Twitter. I rarely post anywhere else. You can find me on Twitch. I am going to be streaming Back for Blood. The beta is running this weekend. If you're listening to this on Monday when it drops, or up until Friday, it runs that whole weekend. I will be on. Come watch Back for Blood. I hope it's good. I haven't played it yet, so we'll see.
We're probably playing it some nights too, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up like I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So.
Wonderful.
Besides that, I am current on American Horror Stories. I don't know if Alan ever went and watched those first 2 episodes.
I didn't.
The one personal recommendation I've made to you in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
Nothing happened of it.
Sorry.
3 weeks. What?
Anyway, that was my personal recommendation to him personally. Nothing happened. Terrible. Anyway, the show is of varying quality, but the episode that released today, which is episode 5, is very good. It is about a couple that is trying to conceive and going through IVF, and things aren't going well, and they go through some satanic opportunities to get there. And so that's the story. I highly recommend it. The other ones can be skipped, honestly. They're not great. But that's me. And then you can find the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. Mallory brought it up earlier. We're on Instagram. We're on there a whole bunch. We're on Twitter a lot. Come and say hi. Alan?
We also have not a Reddit page, but a Reddit presence. That is also something we've started. We haven't necessarily started our own Reddit yet. We're working towards it.
Alan's making promises.
I'm trying to, I mean, we gotta work towards something.
Yeah. So yeah, follow the podcast. Join our Discord. Let's talk, guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk sometime. Watch Hump Day Horror with us. And this Friday on the Essential Scares YouTube channel, we have our first episode dropping of our Friday the 13th retrospective series. We're going to go through the whole franchise, all 12 movies, starting with the 1980 classic, Friday the 13th. Alan and I are going to be watching through that, talking about it this Friday. So come and check that out. But that's all I got. I think that's it.
Is that it?
I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching or for listening. If you liked it, give us a like, a rating, a subscribe. You know what to do. Tell your friends. If you didn't like it, let us know, and maybe we'll fix something by next week. Which, next week, we're watching Lights Out. The whole movie, not just the short. Bobby is so excited. This has been on our tentative schedule for like a year, since like way before the podcast, and he's just been counting down the days to watch Lights Out.
I've been looking forward to it.
Next week's the week. Thank you to Alan, Bobby, and of course Mallory for being on the show this week. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Put that breakdown, Libby.